All right, thanks for paying your rent this month. Go ahead and sign here. It's just gonna ask you a couple of questions.
A tip? I'm not tipping my landlord.
So you'll tip a barista who pours overpriced coffee into a cup, but not the guy who's on call 24/7 to make sure you have a safe home?
I'm not tipping you. This isn't a restaurant.
Okay, so you'll tip an extra 25% for somebody to carry you a basket of chicken wings, but you won't tip someone who responds for after-hours emergency calls? Yep. Well, I guess when it's time for your lease renewal, I'm gonna make sure gratuity is included in your rent. It's a little tip I learned from Two Guys Take on Real Estate.
It's a little tip I learned because landlords or even owners of buildings and residences where people rent apparently should be tipped now. That's according to these guys known as Two Guys Take on Real Estate. And they're giving some advice to not only landlords, but also to renters, I guess. If you're one of those green-haired renters that doesn't understand anything or wilds out when someone says, yo, we have a contract for how much money you can be paying us every month, but we're gonna change that. As a matter of fact, you should tip us for doing normal things like taking care of the building. I think that's baked into what people pay rent for. But still, it's not their only video. They go through many instances and scenarios that they've made up about the things that people deal with and mainly what landlords deal with and things they can and can't do. So I guess to give them some credit, this is one example that they have of things that landlords can't do.
You can't evict me for not paying rent. Housing is a human right.
He doesn't know what I know. Watch this.
Hey! Hey! He doesn't know what I know. Watch this. Just because I stopped paying doesn't mean you can stop your services. That's a constructive eviction. I'm suing.
I knew I shouldn't have rushed into becoming a landlord without learning by following Two Guys Take on Real Estate here and on YouTube.
It's good acting. One more. Let's watch another one. Same thing.
Hey! You can't evict me. Housing's a human right.
You can afford a brand new luxury car, but you won't pay your rent? He doesn't know what I know.
Hey!
He's not paying for rent, I'm not paying for heat.
Hey!
No rent, no water for you. Not that he showers anyway.
Hey! Hey, landlord, you can't turn off my services. That's a constructive eviction. I'm suing.
Hey, what? You're telling me I have to provide all my services even though you're not a paying customer? How did someone like you outsmart someone like me?
That's because you don't follow Two Guys Take on Real Estate.
So I don't know how many of these channels are. We did something before where someone was making up a whole story about evicting someone. But I guess there's a lot of resources for landlords and owners of buildings for them to find new and inventive ways to harass and go after their tenants. Now, if someone's not paying them, of course, there's a process for doing these types of things. But again, one thing that bugs me is when people start pointing out what it is that people have. Fox News did this years ago when people were on government assistance monetarily, and they're like, but they've got a refrigerator at home. Mm-hmm. How is it they're keeping their eggs and cheese fresh? Well, they have a refrigerator, but what is it you want people to not have if they're then paying $3,000 a month for a box in the middle of the city? Because yes, that is what people are paying. And then they go, you have a luxury car out front. You don't know, first off, your determination of a luxury car and how they got it has nothing to do with what they're being paid, what you're being paid in your rent. But
I mean, this is shoddily done and extremely heartless and disgusting and callous. And I don't see how anybody, when majority of the population are renters and not owners and landlords, I don't know who's supposed to be sympathizing with these guys and making their content popular, but that's neither here nor there. But again, like just the idea that somebody would tip you for the right to help you pay your mortgage down, it's just, it's absurd. Like it's really truly absurd. And if you want to get into the business of housing people, then you better be ready to deal with some hardships, right? You want to make a profit off of housing an individual, you better be ready to deal with some real life stuff because it's one of the most basic of needs, having a roof over your head. And if you decide this is the sector of the economy that you're gonna make your money from, be ready to deal with some unpleasant consequences and, not expect people to thank you for the privilege of, exploiting them by having to pay your mortgage with their rent. Like that's just what it is. Like your mortgage is being paid down by their rent, brother. That's it.
Straight up, and that's the purpose. And people say, hey, invest in some properties. You can make money off of people living and having a roof over their head. Sure, it is a thing. And people may bristle at you saying things like, yo, if you're looking to own property or make your money in this capacity, then maybe you should be ready for the tough things that come with it. Renters, they'll be like, if you're gonna rent, you have to make sure you know what's gonna come with it. They tell you this all the time, and apparently that's accepted, but it's not accepted if you tell the folks that have whatever amounts of money they put into this, that they have to deal with people. And actually have to deal with things that happen around that. It's a tough thing. I can't say I would be willing to do it either. You never know what type of person and what type of behaviors and activities they like to deal in that you're gonna have to deal with, or that building that you now own and what happens to it while you ask for tips instead. Which, by the way, I'm not sure if I'm a bad guy, but I don't like tipping. It's why I don't generally tend to involve myself in things where I'm required to tip. You won't find me at a restaurant where Marjorie Taylor Greene can run up on me and start harassing me, because I'm not big on those service industry types of things. I won't get the Domino's pizza delivered to my house. I'll go pick the damn thing up myself. That's me. So if you don't like tipping, or if you don't want to be in that business, then find a way around it, right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody likes to tip. I think most people understand that, especially if it's something like a certain type of restaurant, you have to. But I'm with you to the extent that I think restaurants should just add the cost. Period. I understand that there's a certain sticker price for consumers when they see a certain price off the rip, and it makes them, they're just like, oh man, I don't know if I should be paying for this. And then like when they do the tip on the back, for whatever reason, there's just a different feeling towards people. But I do wish restaurants would just off the top just take a certain percentage or mark up the prices so that they can just pay their employees whatever it is they need to be paid. Some people do, and you know about it, but not all of them do, JR. They're counting on us to do it.
It's not like your local Olive Garden back in 1994 has the same prices now as they did then. So prices have gone up, and that's natural. We get it.
So JR, you're just
probably $5.
You're just out on tipping. You're just out.
You know that? No. Yeah, but in the situations where you have to tip, if I'm in that situation, yes, I do. And in fact, I tip quite well. But when I know I'm getting myself in that situation, I try to avoid being in that situation. So yes, I've been clowned for years about how I don't like going out to eat. I don't like going out to eat. That's one of the reasons. Because regardless of whether or not this food is nasty, I gotta tip this guy because he's working his ass off for $2.95.
Yes, you do.
So the price go up.
You gotta tip the guy for his work. He didn't work on the bad steak or the bad spaghetti.
I'm subsidizing pasta. The Olive Garden? I'm subsidizing them and their employees. I didn't hire them. Pay them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
My rant is over. I just want to leave it at this. When I'm in those situations, I'm perfectly fine doing it. I just don't like being in those situations. Let's try to wrap up this. Isn't nothing wrong with that, right?
JR is coming for your tips, America.
There's nothing wrong with that, right?
He's
and
sick
on top
of
of
it.
What about when I do pick up the food? There's still a line for tipping. I was like, bro, I'm right here.
Yeah, nah. To me. If you're literally doing every single part of the work outside of taking your own order, in some places with the kiosk, you do take your own freaking order, and making the food, like I think the tip is absolutely optional there. But like, if you sit down at a restaurant, a guy's serving you and he's giving you all these pointers about the menu, and he's specialty, and he's making your order, he's making sure they make your order exactly how you want it, even though it's a bunch of alterations to what's on the freaking menu and all of that stuff.
That's extra.
Yeah, these guys deserve something, But yeah, there's these hybrid places where they make you place the order first and then blah blah blah. And it's just like,
I did everything.
Am I really being served here?
I did everything but put the chef's hat on and go back there and fry this sumbitch up myself. Just saying.